Welcome to No One is Safe, a podcast about books, life, and where the truth can be stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Elizabeth Scozzari. Hi everyone, welcome back. We are in episode 9 of season 2. Technically that's 4 if you're looking at this visually. I did decide to stick with the visual approach. We're putting my time in the AV industry to good use. We're doing audio and visual. If you are just listening, that's fine. It's probably better because then you can't see when I say things like season 2 and I put up 4 fingers. So in a smoother transition, we are going with 4 stars for our first book. It is out of 7 books that we will be talking about today. And it is Rouge by Greer Rivers. Like Moulin Rouge, except different. This is another one of the Tattered Curtain series or a Tattered Curtain novel. The first one that we discussed was Phantom. That was a couple of episodes now ago, I think. It was a tremendous read. This one was also very good. It is a dark billionaire romance with a secret society as well as a happily ever after. I'm not spoiling anything. It literally says it in the description. And essentially what you have is Lacey O'Shea, whose father is the current head of the guard. She was betrothed to Kian. For reasons we don't find out about until later, their engagement is null and void. Lacey's father betroths her to someone outside of the organization. Tension, chaos, corruption, all ensues. But at the end of the day, what started as a trick or a ploy or a hit, dun dun dun, because it has like mafia tones to it, actually becomes a love story for Lacey and Kian, and you get to see that evolution. She goes through some hard times being literally locked away in a prison in like a penthouse suite, which sounds on its surface like it might be nice, but it is not. It gets ugly, and that is their story. It is the story of Lacey O'Shea and Kian coming together. Well done. I liked it. It was interesting though, because as much as it was unrealistic, or, you know, you had to suspend some of your beliefs, on the other hand, it was very real. And I would dare I say more realistic than Phantom. So I guess it depends on what part you're in or your tastes or your your suspension of belief. But it was a good read. I liked it. I think I read it in a day, maybe 2. It was a great read. After that, I tackled The House of Hidden Meanings by RuPaul. 4 stars, another great book. I enjoyed it. It was a blend of, it was listed as a memoir, and where The Diva Rules by Michelle Visage was her rules to success and getting what she wanted out of life, or, you know, continuing to get what she wants out of life. RuPaul's book was more of a look at how he got to where he is in his life. The adventures and the stories and, you know, reflections. I found it to be more reflective and more of stroll down memory lane. There wasn't as much of like a point, and I put it in quotation marks, but it was just a nice slice of RuPaul's life, and you got to see the highs and the lows and how he navigated his life getting to where he is, and really what set him apart from his peers to get him to the elevated level of success he has. And that's really lovely. If you're looking for like a name dropping who's who scandal, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're looking to just spend the day inside someone's head who we all love and see on TV, I recommend it. It was well done. So I say good job, RuPaul. Another 4, I probably should have organized this better because another 4-star book, it's going to sound oddly familiar, Dreadful by Greer Rivers. At least as far as I know, the last book, or at least the current last book in the Tattered Curtain series. And again, these are books that you can read as standalones. You can read them as a series. There are some characters that kind of overlap and trickle through and make cross connections, which I always love when books do that. And this one is, I had read it and I don't remember where, but someone had said it had like the Medusa vibes as well as Sweeney Todd. And at first going into it, I did not make the connection. It was actually probably like 2 minutes ago that I made the Sweeney Todd connection, but I did understand like the Medusa theme, or at least there's the Medusa in terms of sexual assault survivors, and I liked this one a lot. I think this one might be my favorite. I want to say Phantom is my favorite, but I think deep down there's parts of this one that for some reason just, it struck a chord. They all struck a chord with me. I don't know if I can definitively pick a favorite, but they all struck chords with me. And she does a very good job, in my opinion, of crafting a very real story that's rooted in so much truth, but also has unbelievable aspects to it, and pairing certain things that shouldn't necessarily go together or don't necessarily go together and putting them in a story. And I really appreciate that. So I don't think I gave a proper synopsis of this book, but you start the book as from the perspective of 2 children who have been kidnapped / held hostage in like this dungeon cellar thing. They become sort of friends. They make a plan for escape. They kind of rely on each other. One gets away, one does not. You find out down the road that one has formed a vendetta against every person who was there that night. The other has started picking people off while having a vendetta. So they're both fit for revenge, but doing it in their own way, where one's actually taking actions and the other one is just kind of thinking about it. And through all of these moments of chasing down the same people, they come together and reconnect in a way they didn't think was possible. And with that being said, I liked it. I liked the characters. I loved the characterization, the nuance of the Italian language and the Italian nunnos, and, you know, the female main character's bond with those men, and just the importance of family and finding your family, but also finding love. I loved all of that. I did enjoy, and I seem to enjoy it every time I read a book by Greer Rivers. She has a disclaimer in the beginning, like specifying the things that she researched. And in this case, she does touch upon not just the Italian culture that she researches, but also the art of shibari, which is the Japanese sensual bondage knot tying, which is amazing in and of itself, but the way she works it into this story and the way it forges relationships between characters, I find very interesting. But I do love her disclaimers. In my opinion, I loved all 3 of the books I've read by her thus far. I have a hard time picking a favorite because there's things I love about all of them. I sometimes wonder if Dreadful didn't have such like a saccharine sweet epilogue ending, if it wouldn't be my favorite, but very well done. Love her work, and I can't wait to read more of her other series. Up next, we have Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. This is a young adult book. It takes place a very long time ago. I think it's like the 1700s. It's back in a time when women were supposed to just dress up, be polite, mind their manners, go to finishing school, and then go on and find husbands. And like that was the extent of it. It takes place in Edinburgh, and it features Hazel, who I think she's great. She's sassy, a little whiny, very driven. She wants to be a surgeon or a physician, and unfortunately at that time, women were not allowed to do those kinds of things. but that didn't stop her. She's able to take some of her privilege and blend it with her smarts and the opportunities that had been afforded to her just by circumstance, and she gets into the anatomy club. I think it's called the Anatomist Club, but she gets in. She's able to study as a boy, but still study in the process / on the side, discover things about herself, as well as fall in love. And to top it all off, there's this mystery that kind of works its way slowly through the novel, and you find out who is killing these poor people, what is happening, and as she solves the case, it ends up resulting in a death sentence for her love and the end of her physician career. But that is not all there is to Hazel's story. There is a lot more nuance in the book, as well as there's a second book. So everything I told you spoils nothing. I'm pretty sure if you read the inside jacket cover on the hard copy, you will get pretty much everything I've said to you, probably a little more succinctly. But overall, I did like the story. I did enjoy the characters that were in there. I did find it a little slow moving at times. It happens more in the second book that we'll talk about next week, but there is a little bit of repetition. The second book has a lot more repetition, which kind of slows down the pace even more. But for right now, Anatomy by Dana Schwartz, 3 stars. You can just read it as is. If you like how it ends, you can just end it here. I haven't finished reading the second one yet, so I can't tell you definitively what my thoughts are, if you should read it or shouldn't. But for right now, I'm about 73, I think I did the math earlier, 78% of the way through. And I don't know yet. I don't know how I feel. So I will have to get back to you next week. But moving right along, another 3-star book, It Rides a Pale Horse by Anthony Marino. If it says horror, I want to be scared shitless. I am fairly certain that I talked about this ad nauseum in the last episode, so I won't put us all through that again. However, this book, I loved how it was written. There were certain pages and passages that really sucked me in. Us 30 to almost 40-year-olds, we are getting our moments in our books because there were a lot of references that brought me right back to childhood in here. I have never read a story like it. It was a unique story with a unique perspective. The way the story was built over time and then how that ultimately ended up ending was something I hadn't experienced before. So it was well done from that perspective. It definitely made it interesting and unique. However, I was not scared. I was not scared shitless. I wasn't even mildly terrified. I shut the light off and I was fine. There's one passage that has creepy, uncomfortable, yucky, gross, almost gory, but not quite vibes. That one was probably the scariest part of the book. It happens earlier on, I think in like part 2 perhaps. After that, there's really nothing. There's actually one scene later. It's definitely gory or more gory than anything else in the book, and it is one of the characters ends up getting into like a fight to the death with a different character. Both end up not doing great. And there's a lot of blood and there's gore. And that was cool, but it was very like short and it wasn't scary. It was just like blood everywhere. But again, 3 stars. It's definitely unique. If you are looking for a book that is different, I'd recommend it. If you're looking for a book that's going to scare you, I say no. Just to give you an idea of the premise, because I probably should have led with that. It's about a brother and sister who are artists. One does sculptures, one does paintings. They have a very intricate relationship, but it's intricate and spacious. I don't think that that's the proper way to describe a relationship, but the way they work with each other is very much within specific confines, but they're borderline codependent on each other. So it makes it very interesting when Betsy is kidnapped And now Peter Lark, who everyone just calls Lark throughout the book, has to save her by completing a task given to him by an employer. That is the overall story. It's broken out into parts, which I thought was interesting. And it does bring out, if you like art or you like painting or you like creating, it will definitely give you the bug to get out there and like get your hands dirty in some paint or sculpture or anything creative in that regard. The next book on the list, there's 2 of them. It's a duet. And well, oh, look at that. Not only is it a 3-star book, both of them, 3.5. I'd give it somewhere in there. They are written by Sophie Lark. So not the character of Lark from the previous book, but Sophie Lark. The books are There Are No Saints and There Is No Devil. So both of those books are 3.5 stars. They are a duet. They go together. You cannot read the second one without the first one. And if I'm not mistaken, the first one ends on a cliffhanger. Although now I don't remember. I read them both a day. Like I read one in a day and then read the next one in a day. And so they kind of like bled together because I read them back to back. But they were both good. I liked them. I liked the story. I liked the characters. There were a couple of moments of like, we've seen this kind of guy before. We've seen this kind of character before. But overall, everyone worked really well together. It does all have a conclusion. There's no lingering questions at the end. Again, it's about 3 artists, 2 who are wildly successful, 1 who is trying to be, she ends up getting kidnapped and left for dead in the middle of a desert, but survives. Once she survives, she then is faced with the reality of she does not know who did this to her. Other people are still dying, and how she can figure it all out. While all of that is happening, her art is getting noticed by the right people. She's being brought up into this art world, and now she has to reconcile her recent past, like this whole traumatic event that just happened, with being like bound and left for dead, and also her relationship with Cole, who is a wildly successful artist. So it brings you through a lot. There are a lot of layers to this journey. Again, she is another author that takes very sad, traumatic things, but also very mundane, everyday human things, and kind of blends them together and then swirls it around in this artistic, dark romance world. And I enjoyed both stories. They were both good. 3 to 3.5 stars. I don't know why I'm so wishy-washy. I just feel like there was something about them that I can't quite put my finger on that prevented me from making them 4-star books. I do think the second one was better and probably like more in that 3.5 to like 3 3/4 of a star. And like the first one is more in that 3 to 3.5 category. But there's something about them, and I don't know if it's how neat everything works out or if it's just that like we've kind of seen these characters and other things before. Not necessarily written by Sophie Lark. I haven't read any of her other books, but just like there's something that prevents them from bumping all the way up to 4 stars. But again, I enjoyed them. They were quick and fun and sad, and you know, there was a lot of emotion. There were a lot of good stories within a story, and I like to see what she did with every character, and it did keep my interest, so I would recommend them. But before we move away, or at least as we are moving away from Sophia Lark's books, specifically, again, There Are No Saints and There Is No Devil, something that I loved about that story was how the female main character was able to find love and truth in love, and also, you know, deconstruct and reconstruct how she felt about things based on her own life experience. And so I'm going to take that concept and kind of bring it into a transition that me and my guy went to Jim Thorpe and we looked around the small town. We found this amazing lookout point with like 180-degree views. They are selling property up there, which I shouldn't even tell people about because like I want it, so I shouldn't tell anyone, right? That doesn't even make any sense. But there are people who behave like that in life, which also weirds me out, but that's another conversation for a different day. And I'm going to tell the story as a hypothetical allegedly because there's no proof, right? What is I know it's not a Cardi B quote. I know it came from somewhere else. But she ends that one song with no face, no case. For some reason, that just popped into my head. But we were there. I had to pee. I had to pee real bad. Jim Thorpe is far from my house. It was a drive. It was beautiful. There was scenery. There was mountains. We drove through the mountains. We get to the top of this 180 lookout where they're selling property, and it is gorgeous. Now, I have always been pee shy up until probably the past 2 years. I seem to have gotten over it real quick. And so I really had to pee, and we were pretty much alone on top of this mountain. And so my guy opens up the doors, makes a nice little blockade for me and is like, here's a napkin. I'm going to go over there. So he goes to the front of his truck and he's standing there looking out at the beautiful sights. And I'm sitting there looking at the side of a mountain thinking to myself, is that a hiking trail over there? I'm not sure. Now, mind you, my shorts are pulled down and bunched around my knees. I'm trying to squat while also not topple over and still trying to figure out if there's a hiking trail. And so finally I gave up and I just put my arms on the back of the chair or on the... You know how when you get in a truck, there's that footstep? So I put my arms on the footstep, spread my legs out, and made a nice little crab crawl kind of table situation. And I was able to pee, and I was really proud of myself. Because again, I've been pee shy for most of my life with the exception of the past year or so. And so maybe 2 years. So I'm peeing, and it's not just a little pee. It's a massive puddle. It's starting to spread in every direction. It's not it's not stopping. And so now I'm laughing and he comes around the corner to see if I'm okay. And I'm thankfully had just kind of situated myself a little bit, but I'm trying to stand up now and not fall into my massive puddle of pee. And again, we're both laughing at this point now. He helps me all the way up so I don't fall. And it's really funny. And now we get to both go look at this beautiful scenery point and we see the sign where it says land for sale. So now I'm laughing, he's laughing, and I turned to him and I was like, when you call to find out how much it is, what the deal is, blah, 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 is year round, is it just for camping? When you call to find out, I was like, tell them I pissed on it and see if I can buy it for less. And it's a stupid story, but I laughed, he laughed, and it kind of just encapsulates that really good rapport we have with each other, that friendship, that love. It's really beautiful in my opinion, and it kind of is a silly story that taking that theme of deconstructing what you know, reconstructing it, learning to love, learning to trust, and having these silly moments, and it didn't stop. And so now we have this pinnacle to the no one is safe moment. We've had this amazing weekend. It is time for him to go. He gets to the car, I wave from the window, he's off down the road. And so I pulled out my computer and I'm sitting down to write. And I realized that yes, he's out of sight, but he's not out of mind. And it was kind of the first time that I realized just how big a part of my life this man has become. And so for me, this moment of sadness when he leaves, I genuinely miss him. I miss this motherfucker. He cannot come back fast enough. This is probably the first time in my life that I have missed another human being as they've left. And so sitting down to write and having this thought process wash over me, it really put a new spin on something. And I think without even, I know without even thinking about it, I just started writing. And what I had been thinking of is this person who leaves and I'm sad. And when they come back, because they always come back, but when they come back and that front door opens, I bolt. Like, I will unlock the door, I will run to the back of my apartment, and I run straight through and jump on top of them because I am so fucking happy that they're back. And it brings a brightness and a joy to my life that I've never experienced before with another person. In particularly with people who I've dated. My general mentality has always been like, oh, it's been great to see you. Bye. Like, get out now. You know, like, oh, this has been great. You've been here for like 8 hours. Like, get the fuck out. And this is just so different for me. And so, again, I'm sitting down. I'm starting to write. I'm not consciously thinking of anything. But the way this story, it's called Someone Within. It's a contest piece, so I probably shouldn't have even given the title of it. It's not yet available, but when it wins, it will be. And it starts with this notion of attachment and how most of the time for the female main character, she doesn't have attachments toward people. At best, they're inspiring for her art. At worst, they are a distraction to her. A distraction and also a disappointment, which if you've ever met me, I do not do well with disappointment. It's kind of like you get one shot and if you blow it, like, it's real hard to get me to engage fully with you again. Although I am working on that, like, I understand people are human and all that stuff. But specifically in this case, the story moves through her inner thoughts and her artwork, and at the end she has this revelation, this transformation of sorts. And the transformation specifically in this story was really neat because I had been writing and I kind of not wrote myself into a corner, but I had been writing and I put it down because I was like, this just doesn't feel like what I thought I was going to be. This doesn't feel like I thought it should. Like, something is not sitting well here, whatever. So I put it away. And then I had just pulled my tarot cards. So there's obviously like some space in between here. I do a daily draw. Usually it's just one card for advice, just for the day. But in this case, I had done a 3-card draw, a situation, obstacle, advice. And I realized that not only were the cards applicable to me and to my life, but in the back of my head, I was like, holy shit, these apply to my female main character. The one that, like, I had started writing her story and it just didn't feel like it went to the right place. So I was able to go in and rework it. And I ended up writing the story that I'm really proud of. And I, like, cannot wait to share it all with you when it wins. Getting excited. And so no one is just one kind of art. No one is one kind of creative or just one hobby. You can read tarot and paint and draw and write and sing and dance and fall in love and do all of those things. And in my world, no one is safe. So I will see you guys next week. Get excited. I'm always excited. I live in like a perpetual state of excitement, which isn't the worst thing. So have fun. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to No One Is Safe. This podcast means so much to me. If you've enjoyed it, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. For more content or more information on me, please follow my Instagram page at Elizabeth Scozzari Author and check out my website, elizabethscozzari.com. Thank you so much again, and go out and have a wonderful day. See you next week.